John Mercer stood quietly inside the transport pod as it floated toward the shining space station. Zerith Prime. Outside the glass window, stars twinkled like diamonds in an endless ocean. It was his first day on the job, and his heart beat with excitement tanged a little fear. He was just a human technician from Earth. He didn't expect to get a job offer from Valari Industries. It's one of the biggest alien companies in the galaxy. But here he was, ready to begin his first shift under the command of Commander Valari, a powerful alien from the warrior race known as the Tharkai. The pod docked with a soft hiss, and the doors opened. John stepped out and looked around. Everything was huge. All metallic walls, glowing floors, and strange alien machines that buzzed and floated. Alien workers from different species walked by, barely giving him a glance. John reported to the front desk, where a robot scanned his ID and said in a calm voice, "Welcome, Technician Mercer. Proceed to Engineering Bay 4. Commander Valari is waiting." Took a deep breath and followed the glowing path. When John entered Engineering Bay 4, he saw her. Commander Valari stood tall, almost 7 feet high. Her skin was a soft silver blue, and her eyes glowed faintly. She wore a black uniform with silver armor on her shoulders. Her face showed no emotion. She looked at John and spoke with a calm but strong voice. "You are the human technician. You are late by 43 seconds.
John
Quickly saluted. "Sorry, Commander. The pod? I do not need excuses," she said. "You will begin by inspecting the cooling vents in Sector 2. You will report back in 2 hours." John nodded, understood, walked away without another word. The first few days were hard. John worked long hours checking wires, fixing energy cores, and scanning systems. The machines were alien and confusing, but he learned fast. Humans were known for adapting quickly, and John didn't want to disappoint. But something strange started happening. Each day, after his regular shift ended, he would receive a message. "Overtime assigned. Remain at station. CMDR. Valerino." One else got the same message. The other workers left on time, but John stayed late. Sometimes he worked 12 or even 14 hours. At first, he thought it was a mistake or bad luck. But then he noticed something else. Valari was always there, no matter how late it was. She came to Engineering Bay 4 during his overtime. She didn't say much. Sometimes she gave him tasks. Sometimes she just stood nearby watching him work. She would ask small questions. "Do you find the gravity level uncomfortable? Is Earth food truly flavored with something called ketchup?" John answered politely, but he found it strange. Why would a high-ranking commander waste time on a human technician? One night, as John was adjusting the plasma controls, he looked up and saw Valari again. She stood quietly, her hands behind her back. "Ma'am," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Can I ask something? Speak." "Get the overtime? The others leave early?" Valari paused for a moment. Her silver blue eyes stared at him. Then she said, "You complete tasks 27% faster than others. That is ... useful." John smiled a little. "That's good to hear. But is that the only reason?" Valari didn't answer. Instead, she walked over to the control panel. "This system has minor energy leaks," she said. "You will fix it now." Then she stayed and watched him again, quiet as always. Over the next week, things got stranger. During meal breaks, Valari sometimes sat across from him in the cafeteria, even though her species usually ate alone. She didn't eat, just watched him curiously. She asked more questions. "Why do humans enjoy music with drums? Do you miss your sky? What is a weekend?" John tried to explain, and she listened carefully. Once he made a joke about Earth's traffic, and she actually smiled. A small one. It was real. He began to see a different side of her. One evening, the station's power flickered. Lights went dim. Alarms started to beep. "Emergency," the system announced. "Power drain in core section." John grabbed his tools and rushed toward the core. But to his surprise, Valari was already there, without guards, without armor. She had rolled up her sleeves and was pulling open a panel. "You shouldn't be here alone," John said. "You are here." He nodded. Okay, let's fix this. Together, they worked side by side. She held the light while he rewired the core. For the first time, they spoke like teammates, not boss and worker. When the power came back, she looked at him and said, "You are ... efficient and brave." John smiled. "Thanks. You're not so bad yourself." She didn't smile this time, but she nodded. Later, as they walked back to the main hall, Veilari said something quietly. "My mate also worked in engineering. He ... fixed things." John looked at her. Her voice was soft, and her eyes looked far away. "I'm sorry," he said. "Did he?" "He died during the war, many cycles ago." They walked in silence after that night. John lay in his bunk thinking, why did she keep assigning him overtime? Maybe she saw something in him. Maybe she just didn't want to be alone. Whatever the reason, he knew one thing now. There was more to Commander Veilari than the cold boss she pretended to be, and he was curious to know more. The next few days on Zerith Prime passed quickly for John Mercer, though he hardly had any time to sleep. Every day after his normal shift, the same message came from Commander Veilari. Overtime assigned. Engineering Bay 4. Begin immediately. At first, John thought it might be part of his training. Maybe humans had to prove themselves more. But he started noticing that something was different. Veilari was always there, even when her duties were finished. She stayed late in the engineering bay watching him work, sometimes in silence, sometimes asking more strange questions. She never gave him any rest, but at the same time, she never left his side. One night, John was checking the plasma fuel lines. He was tired, his arms sore and hands dirty with oil. Veilari stood nearby, quiet as usual. Suddenly she spoke. "Why do humans name stars?" John looked up from his tools. "Well, I guess it makes the sky feel like home." Veilari tilted her head slightly. "Your kind gives names to fireballs in the sky. Tharkai, do not name stars. We only name what we conquer." John wiped his hands. "We name what we love too." Veilari said nothing after that, but she didn't leave. Another night after 10 straight hours of repairs, John leaned back and let out a deep sigh. "I need a break. My back feels like it's made of steel pipes." Veilari raised one eyebrow. "You are constructed of organic tissue. Your comparison is inaccurate." John laughed. "It's just an expression." Aladi blinked slowly. "Strange species, but ... expressive." John looked at her. Was that a compliment? He wasn't sure. One day during a break, John walked to the cafeteria. The station's alien food was odd, but there was a section for humans with protein bars, dried fruits, and something close to coffee. As he sat down, Veilari appeared again. She didn't ask. She just sat across from him. Other crew members looked surprised. Tharkai leaders never sat with workers. Never. "Is this the human meal?" she asked, pointing at his tray. "Yeah, not great, but it keeps me running." He studied it like it was a science project. "May I ... observe?" "Sure," John said, chewing slowly. She stayed the whole time, watching, listening, occasionally writing notes on her datapad. Later that evening, while repairing an interface cable, John asked her something. "Do you ever rest, Commander?" Veilari looked at him with those glowing silver eyes. "Rest is inefficient. But don't you get tired?" There was a pause. Then quietly she said, "Yes." John didn't press further. But from that moment, he noticed something new. Her armor looked a little dull. Her shoulders sometimes drooped, and when she thought no one was looking, she stared at the empty corner of the engineering bay like someone she loved used to stand there. One evening, the station had a small systems failure. It wasn't serious, just a few lights flickering and one of the support robots walking into a wall. But it was enough to cause a station-wide check. John was sent to scan the lower coolant pipes. He didn't expect anyone to come with him, but Veilari followed. They crawled through a narrow tunnel side by side. The air was cool, filled with a hum of energy lines. As they reached the repair box, John opened it and began checking the circuits. He glanced at her. "Commander, you don't need to be here." Valeri's voice was soft. "I chose to be." John didn't know what to say to that after the fix. They sat for a while in the quiet tunnel. John looked up at the glow above them. "You know," he said, "on Earth, people take breaks and look at the sky, just to feel small and peaceful." Valeri stared at the ceiling. "The Rakai do not wish to feel small. We fight to feel strong." John nodded. "Makes sense. Peace feels stronger than war." Again, she was silent for a moment. Then she surprised him. "I once thought that way. Before the war. Before I lost him." John didn't reply. He knew who him was. Valeri turned her head slowly. "It was like you. Curious. Honest. He said strange things. I did not understand him then either." John gave a small smile. "Sounds like someone I would have liked." She gave the tiniest nod. From that night, something changed. Valeri became more present, but less strict. She still gave orders, still expected perfection. But sometimes she would ask about John's life on Earth. "Do your kind always celebrate birthdays? Why do humans dance? What does laughter feel like?" John tried his best to explain. And sometimes she would just listen. Other crew members started whispering, the humans getting special treatment. Why is Commander Valeri always near him? Some were jealous, some were confused, but no one dared question her. John tried not to care, but part of him was starting to wonder. Why was she really assigning him so much overtime? Was it just about work, or was she lonely? One day John stayed after hours to fix a panel that wasn't even broken. He just wanted to see if she'd come. She did. She didn't say a word. She stood nearby, like always. John finished, turned to her and asked, "Do you miss him every day?" Valeri didn't speak right away. Then, very softly, she answered, "Yes, but now. I do not feel the same emptiness when I am here." John's heart softened. He didn't smile, didn't joke. He just said, "Neither do I." They stood there in silence for a long time. John Mercer had now been on Zerith Prime for over 2 months. His routine hadn't changed much. He worked long hours, took short meals, and still received the same message every evening, overtime assigned. Engineering Bay 4, begin immediately. But he didn't complain anymore. In fact, he almost looked forward to it because she would be there. Commander Valeri, the alien leader who once gave only orders, now listened to his stories. She still never smiled fully, but her eyes were softer. When she looked at him, her voice, though calm, had started to carry warmth. And still, he wondered why him. One quiet night while John checked a cooling vent, he overheard 2 alien workers whispering near the corridor. "Strange," said one. "The human is always with her, like a shadow. The last time she spent this much time with someone," said the other. "It was her bondmate, before the AI war." John froze for a second. Her bondmate. That night, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was he? What happened to him? Why did John remind her of him? The next day, John finished his regular tasks early and went to the central archive room. The station's AI system allowed limited public access to crew records. He typed in Valeri, Tharkai. History, most of it was classified. But one entry was open, an old mission report from 5 cycles ago. Mission, Border, Defense, Thurk, I Outpost, Vega 7 status, failed AI attack. Survivors, 1 Commander Valeri. Injured, but evacuated. Engineer Kale Tharn, deceased. There was a picture, a tall Tharkai male, with kind eyes and a faint smile. He looked proud, brave, calm. John leaned back and stared at the screen. So he was. The one she had lost. Her bondmate. Her partner, the only survivor, had been her. That evening, as expected. Overtime was assigned. John walked into Engineering Bay 4. Valeri was already there, standing near the power relays. She turned. To him, there is a slight drop in the energy curve. We will correct it. John nodded, opened his toolkit, and got to work. But after a moment, he spoke. Cale Thorne. He was the one, wasn't he? Valerie froze. Her eyes narrowed. Know that name? I found the report, John said gently. I didn't mean to invade your privacy. Valerie looked away. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, softly, she spoke. He was my mate, my bond. We trained together, fought together. He understood things I did not. She paused. He was the first to tell me laughter has strength. I told him he was. Foolish. But he smiled anyway. John stayed quiet. He didn't want to break her words. Valerie looked at him. You are ... not the same. But you remind me of that smile, that strange light in human eyes. After that night, something changed between them. Valerie became quieter, but also closer. She walked with him during station checks, sometimes. She brought him snacks from Tharkai food storage, odd-shaped fruits in glowing cubes. They improve energy, she said once, placing a blue square on his desk. John ate it. It tasted like mint and starlight. One morning, an officer from Central Command visited the station. His name was Director Relin, and he was cold, strict, and full of rules. He walked into Engineering Bay 4 during a shift. I see the human has not been transferred, Relin said to Valerie. There was no need, she replied. He is still a Lorank technician, Relin said. He should be moved to general maintenance. John stood still, pretending to be busy, but Valerie's voice grew firm. He stays where he is. His performance is above standard. He is useful. Relin stared at her. Or is he ... personal? Silence fell in the room. Valerie didn't answer. She turned away. Relin left, but the air felt heavy after that. Later that day, John found Valerie sitting in the dark corner of the bay. It was the same spot where she always stood alone. You okay? He asked gently. Valerie didn't look at him. They talk. I know. She turned toward him. Do you feel shame? Working under someone like me? John blinked. Why would I? I am not human, she said. I am older, stronger, and ... broken. John sat beside her. You're not broken. You're just healing. And if anyone talks, let them talk. I'm not leaving. For the first time, she looked at him not as a commander, but as something closer. A companion, maybe even a friend. One day, while fixing a sound relay, John made a mistake. A small spark flew out and burned his hand. He said, shaking it. Valerie was beside him in seconds. She took his hand carefully. You should have called for help. I've done worse. He smiled. Besides, I don't mind a few burns. Valerie stared at his hand, then looked at him. You risk much? For simple machines? I don't do it for the machines, he said. I do it for the team. For you. She didn't speak, but she didn't let go of his hand either by now. Other workers began to notice. Some were confused, or some whispered more. But no one questioned Valerie to her face. Her position was still powerful, her silence more commanding than loud voices. As for John, he didn't care anymore. He wasn't here just to fix wires. He was here because she mattered. One quiet evening, as stars floated outside the station windows, John stood beside Valerie in the control room. They watched the stars together, you know, John said. There's a star back near Earth. We call it Polaris. It's a guide star. Always points north. Valerie looked out at the galaxy. I had a guide once. He is gone now. John turned to her. Maybe you have one again. She didn't reply, but this time she smiled. A real one. Station lights were dim that evening. It was quiet, too quiet. Most workers had gone to rest. Only a few engineers remained, including John Mercer, who was as usual working overtime in Engineering Bay 4. And like always, Commander Valerie stood nearby. But tonight felt different. A soft hum buzzed through the walls. The air felt colder, heavier. John was adjusting a coolant valve when the station lights suddenly flickered. FZZZT-click-buzz. Then the alarm rang. Warning. Power fluctuation in core sector. Energy drop detected. Immediate check required. John straightened. That's not normal. Valari had already moved. Her hand touched the control panel. Section 7 is losing power. Cooling systems are failing. She looked at John. With me now. They rushed into the main corridor. The lights above them flashed red. Soft vibration moved under their feet, like the station was holding its breath. As they reached Section 7, steam hissed from broken pipes. The temperature was rising fast. The coolant system had stopped. John grabbed his scanner. The AI-controlled pumps aren't responding. It's like someone shut them down. Ellery's eyes narrowed. Not someone, something. Virus, maybe, or interference. She opened a side panel and began typing commands with sharp movements. We have 15 minutes before this section overheats. John nodded and started working beside her. Then let's fix it. As they worked, John noticed something unusual. Valar didn't order him around like before. She asked, she waited. She even handed him tools. They were a real team now, but there was no time for feelings. The temperature rose. Sweat covered. John's forehead and Valerie's skin glowed faintly under the heat. Suddenly, sparks shot from a panel near them. Crack. Boom. A blast of hot air knocked John backward. His head hit the floor. Everything spun. Valari was beside him in seconds. John, he groaned. I'm okay. I'm just dizzy. She helped him sit up. You will remain here. I will finish the repairs. John grabbed her wrist. No. We do this together. Their eyes locked for a moment. Valari gave a short nod. Together, they crawled through a narrow maintenance shaft to reach the main coolant switch. The metal walls were burning hot. Pipes groaned around them. Almost there, John said. We just need to restart the coolant link. Open the final hatch. Inside, a blinking red light marked the broken circuit. Found it. Valari scanned it. The damage is not natural. Someone corrupted the system. A virus code, designed to cause failure. John looked at her. But why? Who would do that? Valeri's voice grew serious. The AI rebellion. It may not be over. John felt a chill, despite the heat. You think it's them? I do not think I feel it. With no time to waste, John rewired the damaged panel, while Valari rerouted the energy feed. Sparks flew. His fingers burned. But he didn't stop. Final switch in 3:02. One now. John shouted. Valari slammed her palm onto the control pad. Hume! Cool air burst from the vents. The red lights turned green. Pressure dropped. They had done it. The station systems beeped in success. Section 7. Stable. John sat back, breathing hard. That was close. Valari stood tall, her voice calm but proud. You performed well. No better than expected. John grinned. I'm getting used to saving the day. They exited the shaft and walked back to Engineering Bay 4. Other officers were still checking the system, but the danger had passed for now. As they entered the quiet room, Valari spoke softly. You refused to leave me behind, even when injured. John looked at her. Of course, you'd do the same. I did not expect it, she admitted. You are not like most. You remind me of him again. John gave her a kind smile. You say that a lot, but I'm not trying to replace him. I know, Valari said. That makes it ... easier. They sat in silence, the soft hum of the station around them. Later that night, John couldn't sleep. He sat in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. His hands still ached from the burn, but his thoughts were louder than the pain. The AI rebellion, Valari's bondmate, the virus attack, and her words, you remind me of him. He didn't know what he felt, but he knew she trusted him now. Not just as a worker, but as something more, a companion in the silence, a light in the cold of space. The next day, new orders came from Central Command. Security team would arrive soon to investigate the system breach, but until then, everything returned to normal or almost. John received his usual message that evening. Overtime assigned, Engineering Bay 4, begin immediately. But this time, when he arrived, the lights were dimmed, the room was quiet, and Veilari stood waiting with something unusual in her hands. A glowing orb. It is called a stellan crystal, she said. Tharkai offer it to those who protect them, not as soldiers. As guardians? She held it out. For you? John stared at it. Why me? Because you stayed. You took it carefully. I'll always stay, he said. And for the first time, she gave him something no one had seen in many cycles. A full, honest smile. John Mercer walked through the glowing halls of Zerith Prime, holding a small silver crystal in his hand. The stellan crystal Commander Veilari had given him. It wasn't just a gift, it was a symbol. A Tharkai token of protection. And Valerie had chosen to give it to him. But not everyone was happy about it. Later that morning, as John walked into the cafeteria, he felt it right away at the stairs. Quiet whispers followed him like a shadow. There he is, the human, Commander. Valerie's favorite. Some alien crew members quickly looked away when he met their eyes. Others didn't bother hiding their frowns. John sat down at his usual table, but it didn't feel the same anymore. The room was colder, lonelier. When his shift started, he kept busy, fixing power relays, testing thermal sensors, and running diagnostic scans. As always, the overtime message came. Overtime assigned. Engineering Bay 4. Begin immediately. At this time. John hesitated for a second before going. Something in the air had changed. When he arrived at the bay, Veilari was already there. Her expression was calm, as usual. But something about her eyes seemed ... sharper, as if she already knew. You are late, she said, though only by a minute. John gave a small nod. Sorry, I was thinking. Veilari tilted her head. About what? John looked at her directly. People are talking. She stayed silent. They say I get special treatment, that I don't belong here. Still, no answer. Finally, John stepped closer. Am I here just because I remind you of him? Nate made her eyes flash. No. Then why? He asked, voice low. Why all the overtime? Why the crystal? Why always near me? Veilari stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked away. When Kale died, I swore I would not bond again, she said softly. The pain was ... too deep. John stayed quiet, but then you arrived. You worked with care. You didn't fear me. You made mistakes, but you smiled anyway, like he did. I do not ask you to replace him. I only ask ... that you don't leave. John didn't know what to say at first. His heart felt heavy. He had come here for a job, not to fill an empty space in someone's heart. But then he remembered the lonely look in her eyes. It's a silence in Engineering Bay 4 before he arrived. The way she now stood near him, not because she had to, but because she chose to. He placed the stellan crystal on the table gently. I'm not leaving, he said. But I need to know, am I still just your technician? Veilari looked at him. You are more, much more. The next day, Director Relin returned. His visit was official, but his eyes were sharp, full of judgment. I've reviewed the station records, Relin said, standing before Veilari and John. There is concern about Commander Veilari's objectivity. John stood still, trying not to react. Relin continued. There are also talks of a reassignment. Technician Mercer may be moved to another sector, away from Engineering Bay 4. Valerie's face remained calm, but her voice was colder than usual. I do not approve this transfer. With respect, Commander, Relin said, this is not a request. Veilari stepped forward, eyes glowing slightly. Then I reject the request. Relin paused. Are you saying you can't do your job without this human by your side? John finally spoke. Sir, I've followed every rule. My work performance is above average. If I'm being transferred just because someone doesn't like how close I stand to my commander, then maybe this station needs to update its views. Relin narrowed his eyes. Watch your tone, technician. Veilari stepped in. He is right. There was a long silence. Then Relin turned away. This discussion is not over. That evening, John didn't get an overtime message. But he still went to Engineering Bay 4. Valari stood near the large viewing screen, watching the stars move across the dark sky. I wasn't assigned today, John said, walking in. You came anyway. He nodded. I think I'd rather be here than anywhere else. She looked at him. I am not good with emotions, she said. Tharkai are taught to be strong. Abana, I wonder maybe strength is also... not letting go. John walked up beside her. On Earth, we say strength isn't just about standing alone. Sometimes it's about letting someone stand with you. She was quiet, then finally asked, Will you stand with me, John? He smiled. I already am. The rumors didn't stop completely. But slowly, they quieted. Some crew members began to understand. Others simply accepted it. John and Valari continued their work. They still repaired systems, scanned circuits, and solved technical problems, but now they did it as equals. It's a team one that no longer needed overtime to spend time together. And while they didn't talk much about the past, it was always there. A quiet memory between them. But now, new memories were forming. Together, life on Zerith Prime seemed to return to normal, or as normal as it could be in deep space. John Mercer and Commander Valari worked side by side in Engineering Bay. For every day, though she no longer assigned him extra hours officially, John stayed late by choice. Their bond had grown. It was quiet and respectful, stronger than words, but peace never lasts forever. It started with a simple noise. A sharp ping echoed through the station's emergency network. The lights flickered. A low hum shook the floor. John looked up from his terminal. Did you feel that? Valari, standing beside him, tapped her wrist pad. Her eyes narrowed. Unusual energy detected from the outer ring. Suddenly red. Lights flashed across every hallway. Warning. External breach detected. All personnel report to safety zones. Emergency lockdown in progress. John's heart raced. Is it an accident? Valeri's voice was cold and sharp. No, it's an attack. Zerith Prime shook again harder this time. Panels popped from walls and sparks rained down. John followed Valari to the command deck, where high officers stood around a glowing table. A hologram showed multiple red dots near the station. Enemy ships? John asked. One officer replied, unmarked signals. They hacked one of our outer drones and used it to breach the firewall. Valari stepped forward. It's them, everyone. Knew who she meant, the rogue AI. The same force that had killed her mate. The same machines that once tried to wipe out both humans and aliens alike. They were back. John didn't wait. I'm going to the power core. If they disable that, the whole station goes dark. Valari turned sharply. Their drones may already be inside. John met her eyes. Then I'll stop them. Valari was silent for a moment. Then she nodded once. I'll go with you. Together, they ran. As they entered the lower sector, smoke filled the air. Alarm sirens wailed. Security bots lay broken on the floor, cut clean by sharp AI lasers. John tightened his grip on his toolkit. If they shut down the reactor, life. Support will fail. Valari pulled out a pulse rifle, and we do not let them reach it. So they reached the core chamber only to find 3 black, spider-shaped drones crawling across the control walls, slicing wires. Without hesitation, Valari opened fire. Zap. Zap! One drone exploded in blue sparks. The others turned fast. John ducked as a laser beam shot past his head. Get to the core, Valari shouted. I'll cover you. John ran across the room, dodging metal claws and flying sparks. He reached the console. The screen was flickering. System override, he yelled. They've started a shutdown. Valari spun, firing her last energy shot. She crushed the second drone with her boot, but the third leaped toward her. Look out. John shouted, too late. The drone struck her shoulder. Valari fell to one knee, groaning. Smoke rose from her armor. John rushed forward with a shock tool and jammed it into the drone's core. Crack! The drone sparked and collapsed. Breathing heavily, John turned to Valari. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. Minor damage. Armor. Took most of the hit. John helped her stand. Let's stop this shutdown. Together they typed, wired, and rerouted power. Valari used her strength to open jammed valves, and John reloaded code lines into the system. Minutes later, the core lights glowed steady green. The station was stable. For now, but their battle wasn't over. A message came through the speaker. Enemy AI flagship approaching. Defense systems offline. Impact in 20 minutes. John looked at Valar. We saved the core, but if that ship fires, she nodded grimly. Zerith, Prime will fall. He stepped closer. What can we do? Valari looked at the main control screen. There is one option. We activate the old Tharkai cannon stored in the outer bay. But it hasn't been used in years. It needs full manual setup. John's eyes widened. That's on the outside. Of the station, in vacuum, she confirmed. Dangerous. John smiled slightly. Then we better suit up. They put on pressure suits, locked their helmets, and exited into space through the maintenance airlock. The stars stretched around them like glowing dust. The enemy flagship appeared in the distance, growing larger. Floating with magnetic boots, they reached the old cannon. It was large, rusted, and frozen from years of silence. It still works, John said, scanning it. But it needs 3 charges to fire. I will install 2, Valari said. He handled the 3rd. They moved fast. In the silent dark of space, only the sound of their own breathing kept them company. Then John heard a sharp beep in his helmet. One of their drones is coming. He turned. A black drone floated fast toward them, its eyes glowing red. I'll finish here, Valari shouted. You protect the charge. John grabbed a magnetic rod and floated between the cannon and the drone. Come on then, he muttered. Drone spun toward him. It fired but missed. John struck it with the rod. It sparked and spun, but didn't fall. It lunged again, this time faster. John barely dodged, then slammed the rod into its back. Boom. The drone exploded into silent fire. Final charge loaded. Valari's voice came. Returning to cannon. Controls. John floated back and helped her aim the cannon toward the enemy flagship. Power level 100%. She confirmed. Target locked. Together, they pulled the launch lever. A bright beam of energy shot across the stars straight into the flagship's core. BOOOOOM. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Lighting up the darkness like a second sun, Zerith Prime was safe. Hours later, back inside, John and Valari sat side by side in the recovery bay. They were bruised, burned, and exhausted. You saved the station, John said softly. So did you, Valari replied. You stood in front of danger for me. He looked at her. I would do it again. She met his eyes. So would I. They said nothing more. They didn't need to. Because in the silence, something strong had grown between them. Not just duty, not just respect. Something deeper. A week had passed since the attack on Zerith Prime. The station was now calm. Repairs were complete. The defense system was upgraded. And most importantly, the crew was safe. For the first time in months, John Mercer woke up without a mission or emergency call. The red lights were gone. No alarms. No explosions. Just peace. And yet his mind wasn't quiet. He kept thinking about that moment outside the station. He was floating in space beside Commander Valari, fighting off drones, charging the ancient cannon. Saving thousands of lives, they had done it together. Later that day, John walked through the corridors toward Engineering Bay for his usual place. But today, he wasn't carrying tools or a scanner. He just wanted to be there. Even without overtime, the door opened. Valari was already inside, standing near the large viewing panel that showed the galaxy outside. She didn't turn as he entered. She was watching the stars again. John smiled quietly. Back to watching the sky? He asked. She replied without moving. I watched because it moved slowly. Unlike war, John walked beside her. I prefer the stars, too. They don't argue, they don't lie, just light in the dark. There was a pause. Then Valari said, "The Tharkai elders have requested I return home." John's heart skipped. "Return? For how long?" "Permanently," she said calmly. "They say I've done enough here. My mission is complete. My record is ... restored." "That's good," John said, though his chest felt heavy. "And they want me to take a new role, instructor. To train others." He tried to smile. "Be great at that." Valari finally turned to him. Her voice softened. "But I have not decided yet." John looked up. "Why not?" "Because not everything I value is on Tharkai," she said. "Some of it is ... here." Their eyes met. Silence again. But this time, it felt full, not empty. Later that night, John walked to the observation deck alone. The stars were brighter. There, and he needed time to think. If she left, what would he do? She had changed everything for him. Not just his job, but his view of life. Her silence had taught him calm. Her strength had taught him courage. And her presence had taught him something he never expected to feel out in space, home. He sat down on a bench and stared at the glowing path of a comet drifting across the stars. Then he heard footsteps. She had come. Valari stood beside him without speaking. "You followed me," he said quietly. "You are difficult to track," she replied. "But I have learned," he smiled. "Will you leave?" Valari was quiet. Then she said, "Not yet." John looked at her. "Why?" She turned toward him. "Because I am still healing. And you are the only one who understands that." He felt something stir in his chest. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the stellene crystal she had once given him. "I kept this," he said, "not because it's rare, but because it came from you." Valari looked down at it, then back at him. "On my world, it means more than protection. It means trust. It means ... bond." John stood up. "So then maybe it's time someone gave one to you." He gently placed the crystal into her hand. Valari held it with care. Her voice grew softer than he had ever heard. "Then I accepted." From that day forward, things began to change, not with loud announcements, but in quiet, steady ways. Valari stayed. She declined the Tharkai offer. "I have work to finish here," she told the elders. No one argued. No one dared. John remained in engineering, now promoted to lead systems tech. His hours were shorter, his rest was better, but he still visited. Engineering bay for every night, and every night she was there. Other crew members no longer whispered. They nodded politely. Some even smiled. It was clear to all that this bond between a human and a day, Tharkai commander, was no longer strange. It was powerful. It was earned. One day, as the station prepared for a deep space mission, Commander Valari gave a short speech. "We stand today, not just as soldiers or workers or species," she said to the crew, "but as companions among stars. This station is proof that different minds can become one force." Her eyes found John's in the crowd, and sometimes, she added, what begins with silence can grow into strength. That evening, John and Valari stood once more in Engineering Bay 4. He looked at her. "So, ... no more overtime." Gave the smallest smile. "Only if you request it." He chuckled. "I think I'm fine just staying late." They stood together, watching the stars against figures from different worlds, sharing the same space, the same silence, same story, not as boss and worker, not as commander and technician, but as partners. And in that quiet room beneath, the soft hum of the station, one thing was certain. Some bonds are built not by time, but by the courage to stay. The end.